with here. Sorry, I was jamming out. I found that online and paid for it, but I like that guitar start. How's everyone doing today?
Hello, hello. Everything good?
Hello.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's Friday.
Yeah. How are you guys?
It's been busy.
Yeah, busy. Yeah, good.
Yeah, we had to make a tough call yesterday. We were working on the newsletter, and we were so close with, also even with the objects course, close, and we're like, do we do it all? Do we do this? And we decided to launch the hero program. I wanted to launch that first because that actually gives you a good discount to buy in the course too. So I didn't want people to pay in full price if they want to get a good discount.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Sure.
welcome everyone. Hey Dimitri. Hey Ray.
Good evening.
Hello.
Hello, everybody.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on Zoom.
Yeah.
7. Yeah, it's good.
So, who's got a question?
I've got one.
I'll
got
take a
one.
ticket and wait my turn.
John actually he pinged me earlier. Oh, and actually we had someone wrote me a question. So anyway, yeah, go ahead, John, since you're
Let me share my screen. So I'm building a new feature in CSV Body. CSV Body is a software. Let me just launch it here. Software that allows to process, edit CSV files.
Manipulate.
Yeah. Up to now, you can manipulate it manually. So you can load a file here. For example, I'll just go on my temp folder, and there's something called country list here. So you select I will do manually. What I want to do now is to allow to script this application. So to have command line where you can pass as parameter what you want the application to do. So you could script something and have a kind of batch file that will run a given task. So for example, what I want to do, and I can do it, I'm kind of 80% done for now, is first to set a file in this field here. Then, so from the external program, then click the load button, which is loading the file. So I'm okay to set this, but I'm not okay to click the button that will activate this function. So I'll show you the code behind this. And it's probably something quite basic that I'm missing with the control click or something like that.
Is this an AutoHotkey code that is making that program there?
Yeah, it's all AutoHotkey. That's first AutoHotkey freeware I wrote back in 2013. And I just recently, in the last year, restart working on it. Someone was interested in some features, and I improved the interface, the user interface, make it nicer, and now I want to allow users to automate tasks that could be done after that by someone not knowing how to process CSV files.
So to summarize, you're trying to make a template that will action, a template and action. So you can have different actions.
Yeah, a list of actions. I would say more than a template, a list of action. Okay.
Okay, but workflow.
Action can be, for example, set the field here to this file name, then click here.
Yes.
And after that, everything else can be done when I have those two things working. Okay. I can then here say how to rename columns, how to order fields, how to select fields, then to save with which option. So my need now is just to find how to control click something. So, but I'll just first go back to.
May I make a suggestion?
Yep.
Don't even try to control click, just run the subroutine, that button function.
Yeah, but okay, that's a good point. This work but what I need is to have something that will be more generic, where you can pass as parameter what is the control that you want to click, what is the name of the button that you want to click. Then you could use the same command to click any button. Okay.
Now, so, quick thing. So you have the control handle, right? With that, you can get its positioning and its size. When you try to send a control click, try sending it not on its X and Y positioning, but a little bit further, like a few pixels more, because it might be that if you send it on the control position, I don't know if that in a control click actually misses it.
But what I would like to do is just to click it by giving the control name. For example, control click. Here is the button I want to click. Here is the window that is. Now it is just to test it. It is the current script when it starts. So is it a correct syntax to click a button that has this name here?
Let me double check something.
Yeah, I'll check here. Control click, the control or position. So I have the control, but maybe it's button 1, button 2, button 3 instead of this.
Use WinSpy on that script, because sometimes what you think the control name is not in reality. So what is the WinSpy tell you about the name of that control?
Yeah, maybe it's not the AutoHotkey name, but the Windows name, which is
or maybe the class NN.
Yeah, so let me just start here.
And actually, for you to actually pass it as the handle, which is what you're probably trying, you would have to pass it not on that control, but not in that option, but in the Windows title, in the Win title, and you say AHK ID, and then you pass the handle.
You go show on the mouse, and then hover the mouse over it.
So I want to click this button here.
So go to WinSpy, click the top right button that says show field on WinSpy, the right.
Yeah, here, okay.
Yeah, top right button, click it.
Follow mouse?
Yeah, and then hover your mouse over that control.
Yeah, that's the one. That's this button here.
What does it say? Button 12? I can't read it.
Button 13 in this case. So that's the class NN.
Okay, so
if you said button 13, it'll click it.
It will work. Okay.
But hold on. Let's go back to. Can you go back to your code, please?
Yeah.
Now this part where it says btn select file load. What is that? A variable?
That's the name of the variable associated to the control, to the button.
Right. No, but you cannot.
That's what I thought, but I understand that it's not the AutoHotkey name of the button that you have to give, but the Windows name, which is button 1, button 2,
it would be the class ID, or do you have the handle of that button?
When I create it, let me find where I create it.
Let's store it.
Right.
It's created here.
So let me see. The person will not know either the handle or the class NN either. What they know is then the text of the button, right?
Yeah, I'll have to give a documentation to say to click on this button, you have to do this command that will be click, and a second parameter, the identification of the button. How to identify the button? Just the label is not necessarily enough, because the same label could be used multiple times.
Yes, exactly.
I thought I could use this name here, button load file.
But not exactly. No.
But is there another command in AutoHotkey like GUI control?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, because
that would do that.
It is interesting because most of the other commands, like there's a lot of commands with GUI.
GUI control here is. So I didn't see that.
Control actually usually acts upon the variable name of a control ID.
But I don't see the click.
This one doesn't have a click command or anything like that. No.
There's enable there, but enable does not trigger the action behind it.
So I think this is what people should get from this question. If you're using GUI control, you can go ahead and use the variable name of the GUI control to actually act upon it, but you cannot click with it, or you know, you have limited action. But if you use control click as you're trying, then you cannot use the variable name. You have to use the class name.
And having button 1, 2, 3 up to 15 is not very user friendly in the documentation.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think I'll go back to the first suggestion from Guy to, in the documentation, give the command name, the Go sub name that is associated with this, which is here button load file.
Or just have an object that has a key value pair with the name that the user can use, and how it translates internally for you. So if you say like click on load icon, or you use the word load file, for the user looks easy, load file. For you, then that translates to button 13, which you can then just go ahead and use.
How do I get the button 13 after I created the item here?
That is actually what happens is the reason why it is called button 13 is that it's statically. So when AutoHotkey goes creating buttons, it automatically numbers them.
The first is 1 and then.
Yeah, exactly. So this number is always going to be like that for that button, unless you change the positioning of your GUI.
Unless I had a button before.
Yeah, exactly. So as long as you do not make many changes to the GUI, that is always going to be the same.
But just in case I do changes in 2 years, I don't want to have to change the doc, and every users would have to change. No, okay, they would.
No, for the user, it's going to be the same,
right? They would use a fixed name, and then I would have an association with this code.
Right. So you would have to update the association. That's where you would have to remember to do that. But
But I still think I'll go back with the suggestion from Guy, because saying load file or button load file is quite the same. It's not more complex for the user. So what I would have to do is here, when I run this, in fact, I'll go where here it's the receiver. So CSV Body Messenger is the application that will send the command. And for example, if as parameter I say here set, and then
there's an easier way. There's an easier way that is future-proof as well, John, and that is to use the keyboard tabs. So if you know that it's 3 tabs, just send 3 tabs.
But I don't like this.
I don't like it either, but sometimes it's dirty, but it's simple.
Yeah. For quick and dirty things, it's good. But for something that's an application that may evolve in the future, I think it's better to not rely on the position of the buttons.
Especially, this is what I wanted to bring up, is it was really confusing thing for me when I first started doing stuff, especially with GUIs, and you guys were addressing it, but I don't think anyone outrightly stated it. One thing that Jean is doing, he's building the GUI that he's trying to control, right? And often those of us that are especially new to AutoHotkey, we will try to automate that GUI with the way we would automate any program, right? And that was one approach for this. The second one is to programmatically, since we're creating that GUI, we have much more control and intricate, approaches, an API approach that's directly within AutoHotkey. And that's where it's like, I hear what you're saying, Guy. It's the quick, dirty, get it done. But he's building a tool that he has full control over, and so he's going to take more time to do it, quote unquote.
And there's a technique that allows a program to send messages to another program. So that's why I'm using. So my messenger is something that you can run from the command line or in a batch file or in a tool
Is that the one you did a webinar on?
I think I've done something about it. It was about quick access pop-up, probably, because quick access pop-up is using this, for example, in the context menu. When you select something in the context menu, it will use QAP messenger that will send to QAP what is the file that was selected, what action to take on this file. So that's the same code I'm reusing here, but to say in CSV Body, set the file to this path and then click or activate the button command. That's what I'll do to load the file and then etc. Like this. And the way it works is that in CSV Body Messenger here, I'm getting the parameters. For now, I'll show it to you with the parameters in the editor, so it will emulate what would be done with the command line parameters. And oh yes, I'm missing one. So here it will set the control named str file to load to this path here. And when I run CSV Body, and I'll make sure it's running and it's closed first. So if I run this, I can close the spy here. So it first try to find if CSV Body is running. If it's not running, it will abort. So that's the
You're
first.
not showing a screen, John.
Okay, thank you. So you didn't see it. So here in the editor, I can set what are the parameters that would be received by the script. So if it was at the command line, I would say CSV Body Messenger space something, space something. So it will be set, then the name of a text field in CSV Body, and then the content that I want to put in this field. And this will run here. So I'm running here CSV Body Messenger. And as I just explained, CSV Body is not running. So this script cannot do what it has to do. So it will give an error message from here. So this message. So now I'll run CSV Body, which is now here. I'll make it the smallest I can. And here in this script, now it will send the parameters to CSV Body, and the receiver here, which is receiving this command, will take, so there's a few commands here that will take the message that I send from QAP, from CSV Body Messenger to CSV Body. It will process it, put it in an object that will have 1, 2, or 3 values. In this case, the values will be 1, 2, 3 like this, set, control name, and the value. It will show this, and then because the command is set here, it will put in the control data 2 the content which is in data 3. So let's run it, hoping it will work. We know we are live, and it can always fail when we're live. So now CSV Body is running. So okay, and I'll make this window always on top, using a QAP feature, doing it easily. So, and I'll maybe just put it like this. Okay, so it's running. So the receiver received those values, set, and then next step, it will say, okay, set this to this. It's all debugging screens, but now the next step, it will be done for real. So it will write here the name, the path of the file in this field. Next step, the user will have a second line in the script that would say click or button, and then the name of the button, and that will be button load file that will activate this command here, and then the file will be loaded without having to touch the application itself. So I'm in the first stage of programming that, but having these tools in place, I think I
would actually agree with Guy here. The best way is for you to have a public way for the user to refer to that command, and then just run the function. That way is the most reliable. So if whatever they say, like load CSV, whatever it is, you would run that subroutine. And that's kind of like the most foolproof. But then each button would have to have a public name, which usually is going to be the same as what they can see there. But in some situations, it might be a little bit different. But that's
because I'm lazy, I'll first try to see if it's okay just to use the command name.
Right.
And if at some point I say, oh, now there are two situations, I would prefer to have something else. But I'll remember your good suggestions, but I'm lazy.
Don't worry.
Because my command name are quite easy to understand in English. Button load file,
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay, so it's good to have your help on this. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I put the link in the chat, both chats, for the webinar, Jean, that you led, showing us your approach for communicating.
The messaging,
yeah, which was really interesting.
Yeah, it was in the context of QAP context menu items, how the context menu is sending its command to QAP. Yeah. Thank you.
Anybody else have something there?
Yes, I have a question about the styles of the windows.
Oh boy, yeah.
That's a good one. That's a
All
very
right, next question.
Guy, you had a question?
Okay, so yeah, I showed you already my my WinSpector tool, or I think I renamed it a little bit from last time, and I was trying to investigate more about styles because I also want to use it for my copy window function to see what options should I activate for certain controls.
Right.
Yeah. And yeah, we have some documentation about styles, but I found it strange. Here you have I think you have some, I think tab stop is the same as maximize box.
Let me double check something, because I think the problem is that you can assign that to a window or to a control. And if you're applying that same number to a control, it would behave a little bit differently. Like, for example, for a control, it would be a tab stop. But if you put it to a window, it would do the maximize box. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So it is the same number, but there's
okay, for tab stop, it's clear because yeah, the other one is maximize box.
Right. You cannot put that into a control. That's what happens.
Yeah. But is there a certain list to see what options are used for certain objects, even if you say the object can be a window or a control in a window?
That's a good question. I wouldn't actually tell you which ones are for which, especially in the sense of, you know, that when you have these naming conventions from Windows, they put at the beginning kind of what they are for. Like WS means Windows style. And for example, the EM would be edit message and stuff like that, right? In this case, they both start with WS. So it is something that in this particular instance, you would have to get it by context. And the context here is whether you apply it to a control or a window. In that case, it would behave a little bit differently. I don't know why they did that. Maybe it's just for compatibility, because older system had a number and they just needed to do that. But basically, I think this, you would get it by context in certain specific cases. If you go to other types of messages or styling, you might not find that. So I'm not really sure if that's something very common. I think it is just in this particular case.
Yeah, and my idea was because if I will clone a window to see which controls it has and which options are needed to be set, I think you have a default styles that they say that are set, but I noticed that it's not very correct because, for example, visible,
right?
Yeah, most of the time, most of the times the window is visible when I show it. So some of them but I think I will just copy the styles of the default controls that are generated with AutoHotkey, and then assume that are the defaults.
No, you cannot assume that. I'm sorry. In that case, you cannot assume that. So basically, what I would suggest instead, and this is part of what it would, it is kind of like overkill, but it is what I usually do. You see this list that you have right here? I just copy it, paste it into an AutoHotkey file, and just make them variables, global variables, and include them in my script. And when I want to refer to them, I refer to them by name, not by number. You see what I mean? And I would go one step further. Like, Yeah, you're doing more or less what. Yeah, but here's the thing. Whenever you refer to it, are you referring to them by that same name, right? Because then I don't know. Right.
An array.
Yeah, but here's the question, because you were getting kind of like confused with it. But if you just go ahead and use WS tab stop, then it doesn't matter what the value is because you're referring to it by name. And you know that you wouldn't put a tab stop on a window. You would put it on a control. So that wouldn't kind of like confuse you. It only gets confusing when you're using the values themselves, because you would see the same value and you say like, whoa, isn't that something else? But it isn't. It is not that big of a deal, you know?
Yeah.
And I like why, I know the reason why you're doing this, like adding a like an array and just having the styles like pushed in it. But in general, what I was referring to, it was just using the names as a global variable that you would use in general. There are pros and cons between the two. For example, for me, the array, as you're using it, I would have to use a longer name just to refer to one variable, because you have to use the name of the of the object, AO win styles. Then you will have to use the brackets to access WS child or something like that. So every time you're referring to a variable, you have to put a very long thing, which is okay because now you're encapsulating that information into an object, which is good. But then it makes your code harder to read. The other approach is what people do, just put all of those as variable in one file, include it, but that then clutters the global space, which is a different issue then altogether. So, but yeah, in general, the main idea here is just go with the naming instead of going with the values. I do not see here the tab stop. I don't know if you put it there.
I think I removed it because here in the end.
Right.
Put it
just push it. It's the same. Yeah.
But yeah, I'll need to, because these styles are also used for normal controls.
Right.
So I'll need to experiment a little bit with it. So
right.
To have something that can clone the properties of a certain control.
Right. So when you're cloning, then you would have to check the context, whether it's a window or whether it's a control. After you know that, then if it is a window, you would refer to the visible. Is it the visible one? No, it's not the visible. Which one was it? The maximize box. You would refer to it as maximize box. If it is a control, you would refer to it as WS tab stop. That's what happens. So in certain instances, not in all of them.
So probably I will create another
for
array
controls,
for controls, right. And then I have some extra an array for each type of control. So
yeah,
that
sure.
is more general, but yeah.
Right.
It's a little bit work in progress.
Yeah, so it is actually kind of a good approach what you're doing, and I hope to see it actually completely working. Like whenever you go ahead and have this copying, that it can automatically grab what it is. You know, like yeah, it would copy the styles as well. But actually, you just copy the number. You don't have to really, how do I say, like you do not have to individually copy each of them. You just copy the whole number and then just forward
I know, but then the user, it's not intelligent. It's not readable.
Right. I would just loop through them and just do an or, an and. If the style has that thing, then I would list it like here, it has that, right?
Actually, I was doing it like that, but I wanted to have a more general approach because that's more sturdy.
Okay. Yeah, I understand.
You need to figure it out first, and then
yes, it will I understand.
Because actually, the one I use now has a few if, else, then checks
Right.
and it works good, but you need to check it for every
Single.
control. So
Yeah, I
it
understand.
works, but yeah,
It's not efficient enough, is what you're trying to say.
Yeah. Then another question. So I was working on the send message GUI.
Oh yeah. Awesome.
You asked.
Yeah, you could pass, the W param. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, but yeah.
You could search for it as well. I see. Like you would search for something that says notify.
Yeah. Destroy, for example.
Right, and then I just pick one, and it is already selected.
Yeah. I was also thinking maybe add some extra information here on the bottom about that message.
Right. And that is what I said. Like this is WM, that is a window message. But if it is WS, it would be a Windows style. So they have a naming convention on those that you could follow very easily. The only problem is that WS is tab stop and WS also for for maximize and having the same value. That was a confusing one. I assure you, there is a weird reason for it. Windows 95 something had to do with that, and that's the reason why you get that now. But yeah,
And I probably also will add some extra options because sometimes I think with send message you could also send sometimes a string, but then in V2 you sometimes need to convert it with the strput, I think, or something like that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it is annoying. I just had the same issue a few minutes. Yesterday, because I had a function return a value that was a string, and then I tried to pass that as a number. I had a map, or it is kind of like an array, right? And you know that you can pass a number to the array to get what is in that position. And what I got, I just got the text from a list view, and it brought the number 1, but as a string. And when I pass it to the array, it was saying like, yeah, it doesn't have that. And I was like, how can it have the number 1? Because it has number 1. Later on, I figured out it was because of that, because on one end, it was a string and the other one was expecting a number. So AutoHotkey version 2, it is a little bit more strict with that than in AutoHotkey version 1. Because in AutoHotkey version 1, if you had a string that said number 1, it would be treated as a number anyways. It would be converted automatically for you. So yeah, I know what you're talking about. I spent a few minutes on that, trying to figure out why isn't it appearing,
Yeah, so work in progress, but we'll get there. And I should put it online. Certainly
I was gonna ask you if you had these tools available online or something like that. Probably
not yet, because it's not ready yet.
No, but at least you could put it in GitHub or something, and if we want to kind of like help you out, if I see something that I would just modify real quick, I can just do it and create a pull request.
Certainly, because it's very I use it a lot, and it's very interesting too.
Right. Yeah.
For example, Jean was clicking a button. Yeah, I just tested it out with my script.
Oh, so oh wow.
But I should also add send control send option to it,
right,
so that you can really easily just test some things.
Exactly.
Yeah, I want to click that button. Does this command work? And maybe afterwards I can even include some quick way to copy the code that I used to click it, and then you can modify it afterwards.
Yeah, awesome. I would like to know if somebody else has any other questions.
Well, Guy was saying he had some sort of question, I think, related to that. What were you saying, Guy? You're on mute.
Yeah, I can hear you. And Ray also has his hand up. He seemed to have a question as well.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Should I go ahead or you're doing somebody else?
Let's start. I think Joe asked Guy first, and then we go with you.
Okay, here's a quick question. First of all, in your previous screen, you had a search box where the list changed as you typed in. Is there a control for that, or do you have to make a whole GUI for that?
That's a very good question. I don't know if he wants to answer that first. I will show you something about it.
I can answer it. It's actually this control also has that. So if I just test, and that is very useful because that's something that I'm lacking with most of the other inspector tools, that you cannot search easily over the text. So actually the trick is just to, I think I called it updates. Here. The trick is to create a function that updates the list view. And yeah, of course you need to have some data that is normally was default present in that list view. And then you just loop over every
So basically you have to create it. It's not there. You've created a
you have to do it. Yeah, exactly.
I thought there'll be like a combo box or a drop down list or a preset edit that will allow you to do that. That's fine. I'll have to, that's what later use. So that's something to do with that. I've got a couple other questions not directly relating to this.
Okay, so related to this type of thing, there is a little trick that you can do, that you have two list views. One that is the main list view that is going to have the full thing all the time, and a second list that is a hidden. They're both in the same position, and whenever you start typing in an edit control or whatever you want, you can switch them, like hide one and show the other. That second one is empty at the beginning, and the only thing that you're going to do is show the things that match. That's actually, let me, if you allow me real quick, let me share my screen on that.
Well, why don't you also, because you do use that approach and
right, and actually yesterday, I don't know if you can see my screen. Yesterday, I was working on something, as I didn't have internet. I was working on a little script that I have been wanting to do for a long time. It is just loading icons in a thing and double click to get kind of like a command on it to get the icon. And I'm loading a lot of DLL files that have icons in them. And basically I just created a filter. And as you can see, it's instantaneous, even though sometimes I get some things that have many icons on it. So the reason for this is that, again, as I mentioned, there's two.
May I request something?
Yeah.
It would be really useful if you could add search text to each.
I was thinking about that, but the thing is that the icons don't have names. so as I don't have names.
But they're identified with the DLL file and the number.
Right. Yeah. So basically, I was just, for example, that's what this list is all about. I just list,
but if
for example, Explorer.
The DLL and the number, you wouldn't be using this tool. You would just have the
code. This is just for having the number. Like I want to know that it's number 7.
I'm searching a lot on the internet of the correct DLL icon. For example, the copy icon or the cut icon.
I know. That's exactly the point of this thing.
Yeah. Really useful to add a search bar here that you search copy and it automatically finds
the. So don't worry, I'm gonna get there. The idea is that for each icon, I would have to associate a name to it, and I would have to manually do that because they don't have it. So that is something that we would do.
You can let the users do that. Just add extra.
Oh, right. Okay. I could. Yeah.
On the bottom.
Just
append
button. Something. Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand that. So here's the thing. Now, as you can tell, the filtering is almost instantaneous, and that is because, as I mentioned, I have two list views. One that is the full list view, and another one that is the filtered one. And when you go ahead and, start, select the drop-down list here, the drop-down list calls my function. And this is the part that I wanted to show you, Dimitri, is how short is the code for that. It's really short. First of all, depending on whether I'm filtering or not, I just hide or show one of them. So I just switch them, right? And the filtered one, I deleted completely. There's nothing there. Now, I have an object that has all the things that I added to my main list view. The first time I was adding everything, when I was adding everything to my list view, I was also setting them in an object. So what I do is that I just loop through that object. And if the icon that I'm getting, because it is in the object, if the name contains whatever I'm searching for, I added it to the filter view. If not, I just continue and don't do anything.
So
it is a really simple.
It takes more time when you load the application, but you
the first time I loaded, it is really it is a little bit slower, but I'm building the object that will contain the information. And later on, I just loop through the object, and if the icon that I'm looking for contains the name that I have in my filter, I just add it to my filtered list view. And in the end, to unfilter, I don't have to do anything, because at the beginning I already deleted the filtered view, so I don't have to do anything. And when you unfilter, the only thing you're doing is hiding the filtered list view and showing the one that is not unfiltered, so you don't have to load anything. It is just showing. It is a very quick thing. So it is really snappy in all the sense of the.
Isn't this what we did in the hotkey string lookup tool?
Kind of. And actually on that one, I had a more complex approach. And then in the end, doing this yesterday, I was like, oh, this is kind of more efficient.
I just wanted to give them a link that they can get the code if they want to.
Sure. So that was on the and I can stop recording now. You can continue with another question. I'm going to look for the name of the script that actually has it.
Actually, I see my approach was a little bit different.
Yeah.
I used one list view, but I disable the redrawing of it temporarily, and then I fill it back, and then I enable the redrawing, and that is working actually quite.
No. Sure. I'm not saying you should change it. I'm just saying that this is a kind of like another method that doesn't require that much code, because for you to actually do everything in just one list view, you have to have code for deleting the list view, reloading the list view, and doing many other things that in the end, it would take more time, depending on the list. If it is a short list, okay. But if you have like thousands, right there in that thing that I was showing you, I was loading 2,000 icons, and it is instantaneous all the time. Like most of the time, it's just like switching back and forth. Yeah. So depending on the size of the list, it might become a little bit more complex. If you're loading a database with 10,000 lines or something like that, it would become a little bit more complex to do it. Yeah. But yeah, let me double check. So what was the other question? I think we have to take one from Ray before we go, because the time is almost there, right?
Yeah.
I'll show you my screen. What I want to do is I press F10, then I press L for last pass, then I press O for other, then tilde for this first line, and then F for fill. How would I send those keys? How would I send those keys? Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think we helped you, right? We did that last time, right?
And I lost it.
Oh man. So what we're gonna do, because We remember that we were doing all that. So we're going to take a look at the recording and probably we can send you an email with it.
Okay.
Right, because the thing is that I don't remember what did we do? We did a send, right?
It took a while.
Right.
There was something to do with another.
Right. There was another program that you had that was interfering with it, right?
Yeah.
I think it was a shortcut key. When I did the shortcut key, it ran a different program. But
Right.
If it's easier for you to find the video and
We'll figure. So we have to actually find out which day was that, right?
Yeah.
my memory is 3 weeks ago, but
That's
I'm like 60% confident of that.
Well, there's a high confidence on that one. But yeah, so what we can do, because I remember we were sending the keystrokes is not the problem. It was there was something interfering on your end that right now I don't remember. So basically, if we see the video, watch the video, we make sure that we gave you the correct answer.
Wow,
So,
thank you.
yeah, you're welcome.
Another question.
Oh,
Sorry.
go ahead.
Another question that I think is easy. How do I make this single space? Like instead of whatever it is, double space?
Oh, yeah. My approach to that is just use the Control H to find and replace. I don't know if, yeah, see down there you have find and replace. You can select the option for regular expression here.
Yeah, to the right of that one, Isaias, is the /r/ that's where I think you turn it on for the line returns, if I remember right.
Right. Then click on that one, please. Just click on that.
You want me to click on something?
Yeah, down there. Can you see it down here? Or if you can give me control, that's okay.
I can give you control.
So let me just 1 second. Let me request it.
Yeah, Site's a little. I actually have a video on this with Site of doing this kind of stuff, because the line returns in Site in regex are in different things you have to turn on and off. It's a little weird.
I think you gave me permission to a different screen. Let me request control again. So I'm controlling.
So something move.
Oh, right. Okay. So I am actually unable to type because there's a key that is being pressed. Seems like. Right. Because I just typed something on the keyboard and it actually switched screens.
I'm lost.
So yeah, so I'm sorry. So if you can go ahead and open the editor again, please. It seems to be that there's something pressed and I cannot really type in it. So just go back there. You would have to do it. Just press Control H to open the Control H. And on the right side, you will see on the right side, there is a little button, with the R and the T. Just click on that. And now here, what you're going to look for on the find, just remove whatever is in find here. Just remove it. And put /n, the backslash, I'm sorry. Right. And another time, like /n. Oh. Now, first he'll press find next to see if that's what is happening here. Exactly. So it's not that.
Is not known by site. So you have to write /r/ L. Is it L?
Really?
No.
No. I think we just have to put that. But the problem is remove one of them. Right. Yeah. Remove one of them. No, just remove one of the ends. Just remove. Yeah. Remove that. Try finding that. Let me see if you can find it. Yeah, there they are. So it is actually /n/r, or new line return or return new line. I don't know which one is it. The other way around, I think. Right, that's the one. So
bingo. Okay.
Right. So now here's the thing. What you're gonna do, right, is just click on replace all. Let me double check something. Oh no, I think, let me see. Did that do what you were looking for?
It did. Thank
But
you.
on the whole file. If you
Right,
put
on the
this to
whole
be
on the
just
whole
a
file, right?
selection, you would have to select and use the
Right.
option to do the replace only in the selection.
Yeah.
And Ray, I put in the chat, if you ever want to watch a video on it, I just documented how to do search replace stuff with Site.
Right.
Thank you.
You're full of resource, Joe.
Yeah, it's very powerful. It's just a little weird compared to other editors.
Right. It has its own quirks.
But when I press Control H, it shows a dialog box. It does not show it in the bottom of the window. There's an option for that.
Yes.
I didn't know it.
Yeah, and your user global user settings.
Profile.
Yeah. And I turn mine off where I have it with that box too, because I have a really hard time reading it at the bottom like that and seeing it.
I'll try it
personally.
Right.
Next question. I'm using Sci TE4 AutoKey. I've heard you say there's a better editor.
Ray, given your where you are, I'd say this is the perfect editor for you.
Right. Yeah, it is.
Okay.
It's solid. It has great functionality, has great help, and it's super intuitive and easy.
Okay.
Other ones add a lot of extra bells and whistles, but they come at a steep learning curve. And,
Right.
and that's why I'd say for now, I think this is spot on. This is what I would stick with.
Okay. Would you be able to easily give me a link where I could study how to handle entering date and time, and also study how to learn to use the GUI?
Well, the enter date and time into what?
Word. Let's start Word documents, then Excel.
Yeah.
Both Word and Excel have a COM object, and that's what I would, they have a COM object, which means they have a programmatic API that you can automate very, very reliably and not send keystrokes and things like that. The problem is, of course, you have to learn how to use COM, which is a little more complex. It's much simpler in Excel than it is in Word for doing stuff like that. But what I would say, given again where you are, I would say you might stick with sending tabs, which is what I think Guy mentioned earlier. If sometimes getting in one spot and using tabs to navigate around is a pretty reliable thing to do. And when you're new into it, it's one of the simplest things to do. And actually, there is a video with Jean and I using QAP showing how you can use QAP to auto fill out a form. That might be, an approach.
But I think Ray is asking how to just send the date or time. Using a hotkey, for example.
Right.
But in any application.
Yeah. That I would use the variables year, month, and day.
A year, a month.
Right.
Well, are you trying to complete a form or fill in one piece of information? Because it's
well, let's start with just a simple thing. I'm typing a letter and I want to put in a date, or I want to refer to a date that's a month ago.
Oh wow.
There's
I think
QAP.
Guys,
in QAP I just added date calculation, so you
I've
can
got
use
a code,
quick access
I've got
pop-up for that.
a simple code for that in a hotkey that I think will get you going. I'll put it in the chat.
Yeah.
Put it in the chat.
well, it just depends, of course. I mean,
Right. And I think if he's actually referring to days in the past and the future, I think QAP is the way to go because it already has the date calculation for him. Right.
Well, like I wrote it's one of my first scripts I wrote where the guy I worked with worked in logistics, and he had certain, like sometimes it's 15 days, sometimes it's 30 days, sometimes. So that's why I think to me, it just depends how regular is that time interval. If there's a set, like it's usually 2 weeks or a certain time frame, then I would say, hey, we build something custom, right?
Right. Okay.
If it is just a select from a date, or say 33 days and pick a number, then I think you're right.
Yeah, exactly.
What I'm asking for is a web page or a video where I could start learning that rather than taking your time to explain.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's
What
cool.
I put in the chat, guys, is a hotkey where it puts in my initials and a timestamp into any document. So when I'm editing stuff, and it just puts a note who edited it and what time. So if that gets you going on a little bit of simple stuff, it's really simple, but it'll get you going, and you can search for the commands I use.
Right, exactly. That is a good like starting point. But maybe if we have a video on the Automator that talks about that might be good.
I know I did. The problem is I have over 1,000 videos, and I'm trying to remember what I would have called that one I was describing, because I remember I made a short video demonstrating it. But yeah, I'll try to see if I can find it and shoot it to you. Right, it is. I mean, I'll say 100 posts on the AutoHotkey forum, talking about, there's so many examples. I want to go a week ahead. I want to go 2 weeks. Do you want to have it as a variable? Do you want it by the hour, by the day? Like it's so complicated.
Here's the criteria for a beginner. That's what.
Yeah, fair enough.
I put a link in the Zoom chat and the YouTube chat to a page on the quick access pop-up knowledge base where it shows how to insert date inside snippets. So snippets are text that you can insert anywhere using the menu or hot string or a shortcut. And then in the snippet, you can insert dates and have some calculation on the day. So 30 days or 1 year ago, or so you can do this type of calculation.
Wonderful, thank you. I will check all those things.
We got
somewhere to start learning how to use the GUI.
Oh yeah,
you have a good video on that, I think.
Well, our GUIs course would be, honestly, the GUIs are so complicated. That's where I would say having that GUIs course, and of course you can go to the Automator and get a discount for it. But it at least walks you through each one separately in their 3 to 5 minute videos.
right.
A link, maybe.
I'll change the URL over my head here.
So I think we're.
Guy, did you have any other questions real quick? We got 4 minutes.
Yeah, I've got a couple of quick questions. First of all, my one of the windows in my studio program has vanished and I can't get it back. I've tried reinstalling Studio. I was wondering whether I can share a screen with you and you can help me out there. And the other one is I have an issue with a thread where the GUI is still up, but it comes out of the GUI and carries on with the program while the GUI is still there. And I'm a bit confused and I want a bit of help with that. I don't need you to look at my code. I need you to explain the thread and the flow.
Okay.
I don't think we can get this done in 3 minutes.
No, but basically the general idea is if your GUI is kind of like owned by other GUIs, it might, no, it's not. Okay, so then in your code what was the reason for it exiting? Do you know?
Well, it shouldn't exit. It should only exit when the GUI is destroyed and you hit the apply button.
Right, but there is something on your code that might be actually causing an error, or is throwing an error and it's just exiting the thread without closing the GUI.
Correct.
And that's something where you might want to use the try catch approach. You use the try block and put into brackets the code that you suspect is throwing an error. And when there's a catch, you just make a message box and show what the error was. So I would suggest you just, as we don't have much time with that, I would suggest go into the documentation, find the try and catch block, see how it works, to see if there is an error being thrown that is preventing the window from closing and being silent, and you don't notice it. It might be. I don't think so, but it might be something like that.
Okay. Well, basically, the window comes up, and before I do anything else, the code keeps on going as if the window is being dealt with. So I've had to put on only carry on if the window is not existing.
Right.
So, okay. So the last question is a really simple question is, I'm enjoying using Studio a lot. And when I edit the script on the right-hand side, you have a list of projects. Underneath that, you have a list of functions and all this kind of stuff. The list of functions has vanished and I can't get it back. I was wanting to share a screen and for you just to tell me which button to press.
I think, does AHK Studio? I think.
Yes, there's my screen with a code.
Right.
On the right-hand side, there used to be another window here.
Just right click.
Right click.
Say split control.
Split control.
And now do you want it above or below?
Below.
And you tell it what kind of thing you want.
Well, where's the one that talks about the functions?
Yeah, I think the Code Explorer is it.
Code Explorer.
I think.
Right click to refresh. Well, this comes up.
Project.
Just hit both.
Just hit both at the bottom.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. So I can move that up.
Yeah.
Okay. And that was really, really simple. 30 seconds of your time has saved me. I've spent an hour on this. Really drives me nuts.
Just go to my, I got over 30 videos, maybe 40 on tutorials on using Studio.
Awesome.
On my website.
Okay. Yeah.
That's because Maestri admits he doesn't document it, well. So that's why I made all those videos. Anyway, we got to run to the office hour, paid office hours. Sorry, everyone. Thank you though for being here.
No, thank you very much. It's been really helpful.
Yeah, if you guys are all interested in what we're offering now, you can check the links there. Like I said, we're going to have paid office time where this won't be streamed to YouTube. The stuff we're switching to next. So if people have private stuff, it's going to be much more where it's kind of just amongst us.
Exactly.
What's the cost of the paid office stuff? Is there a dollar value to the
newsletter guy? Yeah.
I got the newsletter. Is it in there?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll check it out.
Right now, it's on sale for $5.99 a month. And then so that gives you an hour
extra.
Yeah, right. Of actual paid time where it's just us. And then there's big discounts to our courses and other things. So
right. So just take a look at it. And right now we're gonna go ahead and.
Yep. Thanks everyone.
Hey.